Hello, Dilara. Welcome to the studio. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you back. Because the last time you were here, you didn't get to tell necessarily your entire story. We talked with your sister Bianca.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
was behind the curtains.
I haven't figured out how to convert this room into having like four seats where I can have like more guests. Because I also switch the cameras myself
Mhm.
while we're in and I just having
It's a
more,
multitasking thing. I know.
just having like another speaking person would freak me out.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like tough when you have so many people and then also like everyone's talking at the same time, right? You got to navigate it all around.
But I like this because it's one-on-one and it's
Yeah.
like, 2 hours of not using your phone, looking at
Yeah.
someone face to face,
Yeah.
which is so rare these days.
I know. These days like cutting out 2 hours and just doing that. So I'm glad. I'm glad I'm
Mhm.
here.
I actually feel like I don't know how you feel too, but some of my guests, they talk about, like, they feel like an endorphin rush at the end of a podcast because it's coming to an end,
Yeah.
and they feel like they've been to the gym or they went for a run or something because it's just so nice to have a chat with someone without being digitally distracted.
Yes, 100% agree. Actually, a friend of mine who's an acting friend, he recently started kind of this thing where he meets up with actor colleagues and friends and other people in the industry and just has a coffee chat, invites them for coffee and just chats, lets them talk. And it was so interesting. Like I also did it with him and it was amazing because you're just talking and then after it's the same thing, you have kind of this endorphin rush because you're like, well, I felt like I went to therapy almost.
That's
Not making
exactly
this a therapy session here, but
This is a total therapy session.
yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly why I started doing this. So it's great.
Therapy for the world.
Absolutely. Broadcasting out for those who may or may not want to listen. Um, so look, we're going to get into your background a little bit, but we'll also go more into Day of the Lion, your first premiere feature film, which came out late earlier this year. So, I mean, what was it like growing up in Austria? Because you don't meet a lot of Austrian folks in Los Angeles unless your last name is Schwarzenegger.
I know. That's the one we still need to meet. Um, so sorry, what was the question? Like how it's been being an Austrian in
Yeah, yeah, just know growing up in Austria, like, what was it like? Because you're surrounded by spectacular nature. I don't think it's a country that a lot of people here in the United States really know. Like, I don't know if they understand it's part of the Alps and full of mountains and beautiful valleys. I think part of Mission Impossible 6, the second last one.
I think so. Was shot over there.
Yeah, because the train that he jumps off the motorcycle, that's in Austria, and then he lands on the train, and that's an Austrian train that goes to all those valleys and stuff. That's all Austria.
Wow, I didn't even know that. No, but there's quite a bit of filming going on there if they need the landscape for it. But just in terms of growing up in Austria, I think I feel very blessed growing up there because there's just so little of a film industry there. Even if you go to Vienna, that's probably the hub of Austria and the film industry, if you want to call it like that. But I grew up in a smaller town, so I was very much kind of away from that. But it was always something I really loved doing, and creatively, I started with competitive dancing. So that was always something I was super excited about, and like just performing in general was kind of my first love, and I think it was amazing. Growing up, I grew up, close to a forest, so that was something, in the winter you just go out and are gone for a couple hours. Your parents don't even wonder because, the forests are around. You just go outside for a couple hours and come back at some point and find your way back. But I really love it because I feel like as a child, we're learning so much by just being outside, figuring out our way, and I feel like it really kind of it's a beautiful value that I'm so glad I have and not growing up in a city or, sometimes I look back and think like, "Oh, what if I was a child star, or a child actor in like Disney shows and stuff." Like there's a lot of people who are coming from this industry and then once they're adults, they're already in the industry in a way.
Oh, you'd be in rehab by now.
Or that, it can be one way or another, Zendaya or, one of those. But no, for real, I'm really grateful that I was kind of away from it because also once you grow up and you're, kind of an adult, have a brain to actually, function, um, if you really wanna do it and go and pursue the arts, like, there's such a passion behind it because it was never a part of your life before.
Mhm. That's a nice way to describe it, like, not growing up in the space, and then when you eventually, like, identify that that's something that you wanna pursue and dedicate your life to,
Yeah.
it kind of supercharges you. Whereas if you're like Macaulay Culkin and you've been famous since you were like 6 years old, maybe it's like, okay, leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's even brought all the way to, LA, and I know we will talk about this later as well, but um it's always been such a magical place because I've talked with a lot of people even before moving to LA, and some were like, LA, and I have nothing good to say about it. And I'm like, I don't understand it, because for me it's always and was always almost like, when Harry Potter in the Harry Potter books discovers that there's a wizard world, and then he comes to Hogwarts, like, wow, I didn't even know this existed. This is kind of the film industry to me, and still is. You find this magic. It's like, I didn't even know a set and these cranes and these cameras exist. I mean, now I kind of, a little bit of the magic is gone because you know what the cranes do and all that stuff. But
Yeah. That's amazing. The enthusiasm is electric. So that's great. You're bringing the right energy to the city, because we need, like, I think there's a lot of filmmakers here that are struggling to find the energy and the excitement these days because so many things have been changing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100% agree. But that can be also the exciting part, because so much is changing. No one knows really what's working right now. So you might as well be the person who changes it.
Absolutely. That's a great attitude to have. So you grew up in a small town in
Yeah.
Austria. Like, it's funny because I meet people sometimes in like Denver or maybe Salt Lake City or
Mhm.
maybe Bozeman, Montana or Chicago. And they're like, "Wow, like I'd love to move to Los Angeles someday." And I'm like, "Well, you're only fucking an hour away. Like just move there. Like it's not hard, you know?" But you've come like from Austria. So you've
Mhm.
come from kind of the borders of Western Europe all the way to Los Angeles. And I admire that because, moving across continents is never easy. Different culture, different way of life, different language. I moved to China when I was a kid. When I was much younger, that was always very exciting. But but like, was Los Angeles ever in your mind at like 10 years old?
I think at 10 years old, I probably didn't quite, realize that that's the film industry hub and all that kind of, Hollywood's glam that we know. But I remember when I was very little, maybe 10 years old, my parents told us about just America in general. And they had their honeymoon actually in Texas, or that was part of their honeymoon. They didn't do a traditional honeymoon, they just traveled a couple places. And Texas was one of them. And they talked about it, and it was so magical. Like, they talked about the big cars and the states they went, you know, and got like nothing that's glamorous at all. But from you, for whatever reason, every time they told the stories, I was like, "Wow, this is the place." Not
Mhm.
necessarily Texas, but like America, this is the place. And then as you grow up, and I was so, enthusiastic about, acting and also just filmmaking. You watch movies growing up, so you're like, "How does that work?"
Yeah.
And then obviously you learn about Hollywood. I think once you know there is a place for this, it was always for me kind of, "Yeah, I wanna go there." But I think a long time it seems like this kind of silver lining on the horizon, or like a golden star or something, but there is not really actionable steps to get there, because, at like, I don't know, 12, I didn't know, like, is there a visa? Like, how do you even live there, work there? Like, you don't know anyone. Like, that was not even in the room of possibility. And I think only once I grew up and you kind of can set actionable steps, it all makes it come closer.
It's amazing though. Like, was there even, as you started getting interested in entertaining, so, you got into competitive dance,
Mhm.
then, you got into theater and you got into theater acting. Like, is there even a pathway to stay in Austria and be in film and television? Like, is there an industry there that you could have stayed like close to home and somehow been fulfilled in? Or did you have to move to the other side of the world?
I think you can always make things work where you are, but I think the opportunities are way more limited.
Yeah.
Is there a film industry somewhat in Vienna? Yeah, kind of. But it's more like soap operas, as they call it, like in Asturia, krimi, and whatever other provinces, krimi. Like, it's basically criminology. It's like kind of soap operas, but there's always like a murder case
Mhm.
happening. That's like a big kind of industry over there. And then they have the couple independent movies that are coming. They're going to, Cannes and Venice and so on, and they're great, amazing movies. But to make a living, I feel like is way more limited. And I think on the other side too, what kind of alerted me to America or LA was always both parts. And it's interesting because I feel like a lot of artists I talk with, they say, I want to do the arts, but I kind of hate the business part of it. And, how they tell actors, like, treat it like a business and so on. But I thought that was always the intriguing part because that means that you can make a living with your art. And I think for example, when I was studying in Germany, I went to Munich every weekend and watched shows, like theater shows on the biggest stages in Munich. And I went to some of those after events and talked with some of the actors, and some of them were saying, like, they can hardly make a living from that. And those were the biggest stages in Munich. So it was shocking to me to see such talented people, actors who have studied years and being on those huge stages and barely making enough to survive. So I knew I wanted to be in a place where I can actually survive making and doing what I love doing.
Yeah, no, that's actually a very interesting thing. Like when you meet your heroes at a young age and they tell you like, well, like
That's the
we can't make a
reality.
living, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, one-way ticket to Hollywood. Yeah.
No, yeah, really. I also had an amazing English teacher in high school, and she was an actress. She was talented because she did a lot of workshops of our class even, and studied in one of the best schools in our hometown as well, or in Austria in general for acting. And she decided at some point she wants to be a teacher. And when I tried to embark on my acting journey, I said, like, can I pick your brain? Like, what kind of why did you not be an actor anymore? And it was a similar discussion. She was very optimistic about it, but she was also saying at some point she got right out of school, like an theater gig and so on. But at some point she was like, it was, you kind of even save in for your groceries and hardly make rent just by doing that one thing. And she was like, and that's what she didn't want to do, so that's why she switched. And it was great. She was an amazing English teacher and still is. But that was kind of another eye-opening moment for me where I was like, I don't think staying here will give me the opportunity to fully embrace the arts because you always have to make ends meet so tightly.
Mhm.
And I feel still a little bit, without sounding too negative, because I love Austria, I love Europe, and for one of the next projects, I'm going back there for filming, so I really do love it.
Sure.
But I do think that there's still a little bit of an attitude, if it's fun, it's free kind of thing. And that's, I think, what a lot of people think for the arts still. If acting is so much fun, like, you kind of gotta do it for almost free.
Yeah.
And that's, again, one of the reasons I left.
Wow, that's interesting. Like if it's fun, then you should do it for free. And if it's terrible, that's something you can earn a living doing.
In a way, and it's fun because I read, not really fun, but like I read this book about, like, mindset, and like it's called Happiness Advantage, kind of how we can shift our mindset about not thinking that once we're successful, we'll be happy, but we'll be happy now, and that will bring us faster to success. And it was interesting because one of the things they were saying, actually, if you do something and you love doing it, it feels so effortless and fun. You should, even for those services, whatever it may be, acting, whatever, it could be in any industry, y- you should be actually charging more because you will put more effort in it, more time investment because you love doing it. So you will do way more for it than someone who wouldn't like doing that task or that activity.
Wow.
It's an interesting, yeah, thing.
That's nice. So do you remember like the moment when you were sitting at home with your family in Austria where you're like, okay, I'm leaving to the United States now, and this is going to be like the rest of my life, or like, what was it? What was that conversation like where it's like, I'm leaving home?
I know. I love how you painted that picture. It was like, bye.
Yeah.
But it kind of was similar, but it was not with the States. It was when I was in theater school in Germany. I felt like that was what I wanted to do. Like, you apply to all these schools and you do all these entrance exams, and then you finally get into one school. And after half a year at the school, it was a 4-year program. I was feeling like I felt like stuck, and you feel like just your gut feeling tells you you're not quite at the right place. And I couldn't even put my finger on it because you're at the place where you're studying acting. And I was like, I don't know, it feels like not right. And every time I thought, like, when you kind of daydream, you're like, what if I was just, and you imagine yourself, being on vacation or be whatever. And for me, it was always, oh, I wish I was just on a set in LA, or like even in the UK, like on a set where they actually make big movies. And I wish I could be there and understand it better and act and so on. So that was always my daydreaming. So at some point, I was like, I think that's something I really need to do. And
How old were you when you had that epiphany?
like, the daydreaming started when I was, like, 12 or 14. The I think I have to do something about it was like when I was 18, 19 in theater school after graduation. Um, and and then I kind of looked at my, possibilities and so on. And one of the things I came across was like Canada has certain kind of exchange programs with Australia that have treaties. So I was like, oh, and you do your research in Hollywood North is what they call Vancouver. So I was like, I think I'm gonna try it out. And that was kind of what it was. I applied for the visa. My sister Bianca, who was also here, she also applied for the visa, and we coincidentally or luckily or whatever you want to call it, got it not at the same time, but kind of just a couple months apart. And then we said like, okay, let's do it then together because we didn't know anyone in Canada, so it was like, let's do it together. So you have at least someone else there, and it was really the first time when we went. It felt more like let's see how we like it, and if we don't like it, we come back and finish the studies in Germany, and if I do like it, then we'll see.
Yeah. And what was it like? What was the experience like in Canada, in Vancouver? Because like a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of films they shoot in Canada, Vancouver and Toronto mainly. But the IP and the studios and everything like that, the people who really own the content and really manage it are based here in Los Angeles. But they just go up and hire like crews and stuff like that to film because they get better tax rebates, the currency exchange is better and things like that. So they film stuff up there, but not necessarily the films aren't actually made or thought of or written or created by Canadians.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that that I didn't know that going up there.
No, a lot of Canadians don't even know that. Like we put all this tax money into these credits and stuff like that, but it doesn't really create like long lasting jobs because at any stage the day rates and the crew rates and stuff like that can change or just disappear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think I didn't even realize that until the strike came up.
Oh, that was
Same.
big. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because suddenly you're there in Canada and there's like one show maybe going, and you're like, what happened to like the 40 shows that were going on just like a couple months ago?
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, that's all American content, and they're all going up here. And that was kind of eventually the what kind of made my or kind of enforced my decision to come down here. I'm so grateful for the time I had in Canada. I loved it. The people were amazing, and it was my first step on like bigger film sets and really seeing like the Hollywood experience of filmmaking because like you mentioned, there's so many US productions going up there. So they have Disney and Warner Brothers shows and CW shows and whatever all up there. So being on those sets, you really see, the kind of the big Hollywood movies.
Sure.
And that was so kind of educational on one side, but also again enforced that feeling of now I'm at the right place. I remember the first time I set foot on like it was like Batwoman. It was a big Warner Brothers show, and I was there as a PA, so not even acting for it, but I was on the set, and I was like, I just knew like this is it. This is the place, how they call it. This is the place, right? I literally had that epiphany. So after that I knew first off I'm not going back. And second off, this is where I want to focus and put my career.
That's wild. So you started off PAing, and I find this really interesting because someone who now has been, who has acted and directed and written a feature film and now working on your second one. I love the fact that you started as a PA and just kind of like bit the bullet and said like, okay, I just want to get in the door somehow,
Yeah.
any way I can.
Honestly, I think that's the was the one of the best experiences too. I admire people who do the work, and also I feel like so many amazing filmmakers they have started in PA land, and that was not even the reason for it. I kind of stumbled into it because I was looking for next to the auditions that were coming in. I was like, I need a kind of day job, and through a friend of a friend of a friend, kind of got my first PA gig, and it was just a day call because I needed someone. And I loved it. And then after, I just stayed connected with the people, and it was just like one coming every, couple weeks, if even. And then eventually, I knew enough people, and then I would come in regularly as a PA, and it was So amazing. I really say like PAing was my film school because I didn't go to film school, but that was definitely the film school, especially. Again, I was so grateful and so lucky that I was in so many shows where people were so open to sharing their experiences and sharing knowledge. I've heard horror stories from other people who said like, they were screamed at or whatever. It's like I never had any of those experiences, so maybe either I just blended them out or I just had really great sets that I worked on. So I'm really grateful for that, and I think it informed a lot where I went after as well.
That's wild. I mean, it's great that you didn't get stuck PAing for like a decade because, like, I think a lot of people, they're afraid to go in kind of at the bottom, where you're
Yeah.
doing, where
Mhm.
you're an intern or where you're PAing or whatever like that,
Yeah.
because I feel like, oh my God, like maybe I'll just get comfortable here and I'll wake up in 10 years and I'm still PAing, right? Because that's a real issue.
Yeah, and I definitely have friends who have been in it for like years and years and years, and but they also like it. They feel comfortable in it. They get like they get their union salary, and they're like, I love the job, like, and nothing against that. I feel like I'm just too restless. I knew going in it, um, that for me it was like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to learn on set and like ask questions and see how it's done, and like even being on set, seeing other actors, being filmed and how they work with the on set and do their blocking and whatnot, like already gives you such a film school because as an actor watching that's like, oh, okay, now I know how it's done, because a lot of the acting training too is like the acting craft, but not everything that comes on set. So I think that you just really learn being on set. um
And yeah, and to add to that, sorry to interrupt you,
yeah,
but
no, go ahead.
like acting on stage,
Mhm.
which you obviously had a lot of practice and training with in Munich when you're, or in Germany when you're at your theater school, and acting on camera, on in a film
Yeah.
is totally different
Yeah.
because where you're looking, making sure you hit your marks, where the light is and where the light isn't.
Yeah.
Like you can ruin an entire take
Yeah.
of two actors or four actors trying to make magic, you can ruin the entire take by missing your mark by a foot or
Yeah.
two, and then the light's half on you and half off you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now the whole thing's gone.
Exactly, exactly. That was one of the things that, you realize you watch it and it's like, wow, this is like a whole different art.
Yeah.
So I really yeah, I really, it was a great film school. But to the point of like if I was ever scared that I would get stuck there or any of that, I don't think so, because I feel like I knew it, and I always kind of know what my next steps are, where I want to go just in my life, like kind of my true north or whatever. So every day, like I do step by step towards kind of moving towards that goal or dream or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's powerful. It's powerful, the direction you wanna go in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Most
mean,
of
who
us are just
knows?
spinning around.
Who knows, right? It might change. I was like, this might be me now. Ask me in 5 years. Like, you know what you told me in the podcast.
Yeah. That's great though. So at what stage, because I know a little bit of your history already and I've talked to your sister, at what stage did you realize, like, if we wanna make it in this business, we need to write our own stuff? Like, because this is always an issue. Like, if you're a great actor or you're a great comedian or you're a great director or something like that, you can audition and you can go to meetings and stuff like that, and you can share your vision for all these ideas, and or you can go to castings, and you might get picked, you might not get picked, blah 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 blah. But if you can act and direct, and you have the ability to write the perfect character for you to act
Mhm.
in, or you direct and you direct the perfect kind of script for you to direct, and you can really show your skills. Like, when did you figure out, like, if we want to make it in this business, we need to create something from scratch for ourselves? Because your Day of the Lion film that you wrote and directed with your sister,
Mhm.
and produced, you did that entirely by yourself, and that's now your calling card to the rest of the industry.
Mhm.
So, I find it really incredible that instead of sitting around waiting for the right casting, for the right role, for the lottery ticket win,
Mhm.
you put in the hard work and wrote your own feature script.
Yeah. I think how it kind of how like I don't think it was like one moment where it was like, oh, now I know I have to kind of make my own movies in order to be able to survive this industry. There was never a moment like this. I think it was kind of leads back to being too restless. At some point, like you said, you get the auditions, and then it was like all these tiny auditions, and it's like, cheerleader number two, hooker number three, kind of these auditions that come in. And at some point, I was like, I just want a meaty role, like a character where you can really like dive into and like just exploring, like living in different shoes for a while. I was so like, you get the itch for it. So I was like, I need to do something. And again, it starts with the daydreaming, and you just think about it, and you think a little more, and then have a whole story at some point. And because I am writing with Bianca together, so it was a lot of discussions we had first, and then until we really put it to the paper. And I think for a Day of a Lion, it was more so that we just said, let's just do a movie. Let's, not even having expectations. And we called it, even for ourselves and on set, we said, like, this is like an experiment. This is like almost like film school. Because we didn't want to set ourselves up for expectations. Oh, we got to sell the movie. And because we mostly self-financed it, we were saying the money we put in there, we know we could lose. It's like setting on a lottery. If we spend all this money in Vegas, you might also lose. So this is what we want to invest, and if we never get it back, we never get it back. But at least we know we'll have a finished product after.
Sure.
And that's what we kind of what we just wanted to do. And after we finished the movie, it actually went way bigger than we thought it would be. Like, even from the crew that came on board, like, we had so many amazing people who were helping out and coming on board. And first we thought, like, it's going to be like a 10 people crew and cast. So, really, really small. And it ended up being a 50 people crew and cast. So even still tiny for, bigger productions, but bigger than we anticipated at the beginning. And I think that experience was just so again, informative for everything else that came after, because only when we did that, and like you called it like a calling card for Hollywood, and I feel it really was. On different levels. On one side, you come to Hollywood and you have something that you've done, something even to talk about. And on the other side, I think also for the acting mindset, it was really helpful, because sometimes I find, as an actor, you have so little power over what's happening with you, as, do you get cast? And even, if the casting director loves you, maybe the producers don't, so you don't get the role either, right? There's so many instances, and there's so much waiting for stuff to happen. I think can get you fast into a mindset of like, oh, am I not good enough? Or is it, what am I doing wrong? And you're doing all this busy work of getting the best reel and the best headshots and changing headshots and changing this and this over the years. And I think that really got me completely out of that mindset, because now you feel like you have power and control over your own life again, because you're like, okay, if no one casts me in anything, I'll just, make my own, and I can act in that.
Yeah.
And it can be successful. So that was a big epiphany.
That's huge. Do you know how few people in this town have that
Yeah.
ability to, create something for themselves and then have the confidence to be like, well, I don't mind still doing auditions, but if I don't get anything, I'm just going to write my next feature and put it out into the world. Like, that's power.
Yeah.
Like, cuz power is in I think in storytelling and in entertainment in general, and like I think the power is not needing anyone else.
Yeah.
So the less needy you are and the busier you are and the more you're creating without needing anyone else, the more in demand you are. And then when people do ask you to do things, you can command a higher salary and more control over the creative process. And then if you don't like what anyone's offering, you can just go back and do your own stuff and still make a living. Like, that is power.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I find it so interesting, because I don't even like the word control sometimes, because it sounds so restricted. But I feel like you were saying, it's just once you can take active steps in your life, I feel like you feel, okay, I can do something actively towards where I want to go. And for acting, very often it's the other way around, where you're just like waiting and hoping and praying that someone will pick you.
Yeah.
And kind of to that point, there was a casting director workshop I did, and someone asked, what kind of sets the actors that book apart from the actors who don't book? Like, is there the magic ingredient? And one casting director, was saying, it's usually the people that have something else going on besides that one gig they're coming in for. And that doesn't have to be like that they're all producing their own movies, but it could be an actor who already has another book gigged, and they're, another gig booked, and they're like, oh, okay, I am coming in for this, but even if I don't get it, I have this other thing going on anyway. So it's not a, no fuck attitude, but it's a little bit of a, I don't need it. So I think they get rid of all that neediness that sometimes comes in.
I think that busy people
Yeah.
who can control their own busyness attract everything they want in life.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I will write that down in my vision board.
It's true, yeah, because I got to the point where I was making television shows, and I was trying to work with other producers and stuff like that. thinking that I was just on camera talent, right?
Yeah.
But then things kept getting delayed and people couldn't arrange the financing and people were having difficulties with corporate partners and all that shit. And I was like, wow, like they're not like I know what they're trying to do and it doesn't seem that hard to do. And if I do what they are doing
Yeah.
and I can be on camera, I can control my schedule. And to me that was it because I also had a nice speaking career. And if I could really control my schedule 6 months in advance, I could plan in all my speaking events and book all my speaking events. And then I wouldn't have to cancel any of them, which means I had happy clients.
Yeah.
And then, but it was really just having control of my time because then I could go out and I could make 10 episodes a year and still
Which you
do,
did.
yeah, and still do like 40 something speaking events. And it was only because I didn't have other producers telling me, oh, this has been delayed 2 weeks. This has been like I could just go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And I kept my team small and that changed everything. And then once I had total control of my own schedule,
Yeah.
everything else I did, the rates just went up and, the control I had over everything else just went up because people wanted to work with me, but I was super busy. And that is currency.
100% agree. I think Hollywood is a place where if you bring something to the table, people want to come on board of your team, your plate, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Choose the metaphor, but I feel like it really is like that, and that's what I find once you make your and I don't want to it this sounds kind of like a trade-off or something, but it I don't even really mean it in that way. I feel like it's just once you have something to share, people want to be part of that creation. And on one side, it's like, like you said, like, once you have a suddenly a value because you can do it all yourself and you don't need another producer or you need, someone else who can do it for you. You do it yourself. And now people are like, oh, he can do it himself. I kind of want to be part of that journey. And I want to be, yeah.
Yeah. It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Do you still produce all yourself now, or do you have like partners?
Well, so things have been a little strange for me. So I was super busy up till COVID. So we were doing a lot. And the entire television industry kind of changed
Yeah.
during COVID. So now it seems like no one is really doing adventure travel television shows on linear broadcast TV. So Discovery Channel, Nat Geo, BBC Earth. Those are the people like I used to work with Discovery and BBC Earth specifically. So now like I'm at a point where it's like I don't really want to work with anyone else because like I have a really specific vision of where I want to go and what I want to do and the places I want to go and what I want to do. And I'm now able to like make enough money through Patreon, through YouTube, through podcasting, through corporate partners, through my already like more speaking events are coming back. So I'm able to kind of create this little bubble where I can just kind of go out and do what I want and put them on YouTube and put them on other platforms
Yeah.
and not care about trying to make a 46-minute television show and also too those broadcasters they don't want to pay for what I make at market rate and they want to pick it up cheap after it's already made which is a bit of an issue that they don't want to try to pay up front for it. So they're not willing to like take that risk. And if you want to go deeper on it.
Yes, please go. Like I was like, yes, inform me.
So what happened was basically around COVID, all the risk taking around kind of this travel adventure genre changed. So I had a broadcast executive here explain it to me. He said, and I've said this before on the podcast, he's like in 2019, he would get a budget of $10 million and he would be told to make 10 shows $1 million a piece, right? And what he would do is he would kind of take all these proposals and he would give $1 million to each storyteller, whether that's a producer, showrunner, or director, right? And I used to be one of those people. So I was very blessed to be one of those 10 at that time. So I was able to do that. But now since COVID has come in, what they're doing now is they're putting $9 million into one show and getting an A-lister like an Avenger or something like that, a Marvel guy, to do some, kind of travel or adventure show. And then they use $1 million to buy stuff that's already been broadcast in other territories or on other channels. Like they pick it up as an acquisition
Yeah. Yeah.
to fill in the gaps. And then with that one show for $9 million or whatever, they just do as much advertising behind it to try to get people to watch it. And then that's kind of considered a success. Whereas before when they used to do 10, 2 or 3 would hit and do really well. 2 or 3 would kind of be in the middle, and then maybe 2 or 3 would be busts. So they were, and that used to be okay for decades.
Yeah.
But now kind of everything is has shifted. So I'm just like, I have no interest in playing in that game anymore,
Yeah.
but I still want to travel. I still want to tell stories. I still want to explore the world. And it's great because YouTube has just become so powerful and so big. Yeah, YouTube's bigger than Netflix in the United States.
Wow, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, more hours streamed, and it's just become pretty powerful. Now, obviously, if you put stuff up on YouTube, it can get lost in the shuffle because there's so much
Mhm.
stuff there. But if you can build your own audience and things like that, then it can be quite powerful.
Which you have done. So you
Trying.
exactly. So you're on the right track there.
The freedom is the most important thing for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that, especially when you said like working for yourself,
Right.
like, knowing when, and especially now that you don't really work with any studios, you can really do and go whenever you want to do. And yeah.
And being able to do the podcasting in between. And again, the scheduling. Like I know like last week I was away, I didn't have any podcasts.
Mhm.
I was in the mountains in a tent for 5 days.
Wait, where were you last week?
I was in
Spoiler it.
I was in Eastern California climbing mountains and stuff.
Oh wow.
But then, I can come back and then I can load up podcasts all this week and get to see you and I can control my entire, I don't have to cancel on people
Yeah.
and I can be really efficient with my time, which is something that most people, like when you work with a lot of other people, the one thing that they don't really do is respect your time very much. And
Yeah.
that really drives me into, I'm a little bit OCD. Like
Yeah.
I need the control.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I feel like there is, yeah, lots of us in the industry. No, but I do totally understand that. I also like, I'm a big, I just like, I do not like wasting anyone's time.
Mm.
Like other people saying that's like how I get really like frustrated or like, just get really hyper when I'm like, I feel like I'm doing something, I'm spending too much time on a task that I thought would take less time, like wasting my own time or wasting someone else's time is even worse. Because I feel like so I get
It's awful.
yeah, it's really awful.
So let me get this straight. So you're a PA
Yeah.
working on television and film sets in Vancouver,
Yeah.
Hollywood of the North.
Yeah.
And 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 you're working what, 12, 14, 16-hour days as a PA. And then when are you coming home and writing a feature film script? Like how do you manage that time balance?
It was crazy sometimes. Like some shows were again amazing. You stick to your 12 hours, but as a PA, usually it still comes to 15 hours because you have to be a little earlier than the rest of the crew that arrives because you're kind of the first one on set. And then also you have to wrap after. But I've done some shows where we literally had 18 hours on set and then, the next day and you kind of have 5 hours, if even 4 hours of sleep because until you get home and, everything done. That was crazy, but, what I even though I was doing the PAing, I always made sure that I had enough time for what kind of my true north was. So, again, the acting, I always went to acting class and continued doing that. It's like, going to the gym. And so was for all the other creative aspects. So once my sister and I decided to write a feature, the writing kind of came naturally because and I was also not full time PAing always. It was not like, 5 or 6 days a week. It was usually like 4 or 3 days a week, sometimes even. So that because you anyways have your 15-hour days or sometimes like 18-hour days,
Sure.
I would make sure that then I have time in between where I can write and so on. Also, because I had a couple friends who were they kind of had the goal to write something and they were full-time PAing or key PAing even. And then there was just no time left for months often while they were on the show to do anything outside because literally every day and then the weekend comes and everyone is so exhausted that they just, take the weekend to just relax or just sleep. And then Monday starts and you have another 15-hour day. So I made sure that I have some time in between. And that's when we started creating. And I have to say, it's very helpful having, a twin sister in my case who is creating and is in the same space because we do have different interests, which I think is amazing because we bring kind of different interests to our movie making.
Mhm.
But then yet we have enough similarities that we say, oh, we have the same interest of kind of movies or artistic vision.
Mhm.
Because I think that could get like a little tricky if you have like two very different people trying to make it work because both visions could be amazing, but if they can't combine,
Yeah.
it get a little tricky. And yeah, we do have conversations as well. So there
Yeah.
is.
And I mean, like, was your sister working the same days you were working and she had the same days off? Like, I'm just
Yeah,
logistically, I'm just trying to figure out, like, how the
how
fuck
did
do
it
you do
work?
16, 18-hour days and then still like have the energy the next day or the same night to come home and try to sit down with your sister
I just
and
never
write a
sleep.
feature? Yeah.
I just never sleep. No, we had sometimes we were working on the same days, and sometimes we would, I work Monday, Tuesday, and she has like, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I have like Friday again or whatever. So we had like sometimes was overlapping, sometimes it wasn't overlapping. It was also sometimes different shows. We were not always working on the same shows. But in the end, we always made sure that we have like, 3 or 4 days that we had full on PA work, and then the rest we took for the writing. And then again, a lot happened. Even sometimes we were literally coming home from the same shift of PA work. It was like past midnight and we were like hungry. So you make yourself food still at 1 in the morning, and we would talk another 2 hours just about movies, like, and not movies, just movies, but the project we were working on is like, oh, today I was on set and I saw XYZ, and this kind of inspired me. I had this cool idea for a shot, or I thought about this character a little more, and I think this is, where we could go. And then this sparks something. And it's so often, and I love these moments. It's one of my favorite parts of the writing, quote unquote, writing process, because it's not really, we don't put anything on paper, we just talk about it. And so much sparking of like, kind of, yeah, of sparks, where it's like someone says something and that sparks something in the other, and they're like, but what if, that kind of yes and game, right? So that was a lot of it. And yeah, so the days kind of off we spent on making movie on kind of writing our projects. And then, once we moved into pre-production and production, we had to kind of trim down on the PA days. But we kind of, especially once before we shot it in March, we were kind of catching up on a lot of PA work before, so that you will take that time off where you don't get a lot of payment in, really, because you're like, we spent more on the movie than we
Mm.
we made from it.
Mhm.
So that kind of, you kind of, just strategically make it happen.
I think it's wonderful that you were able to find a day job for yourself, like a part-time kind of day job for yourself, which actually inspired
Yeah,
you creatively. Because I feel like
100%.
so many people, especially in this town, they may not PA, right? They may be a waiter,
Yeah.
or they may do catering jobs, or create a side business or whatever like that. And that might not be inspiring them on a daily basis. But the fact that you could come home at like midnight after a full day on set and be like, "Oh my god, I saw this today on this set. We should use that in our film."
Mm.
And you were able to have a dialogue with your sister about like watching the creative process during your day job, and then trying to put that into your own feature film. I think that's a blessing.
Yeah,
You know.
100%. And I love that you're bringing this up, because I think that's like exactly the perspective we had on it. Because sometimes you're really running like nonstop as a PA on set, and sometimes you're just locking up a location somewhere, and you're just literally for 10 hours standing at a spot and no one's coming by and you're just there. But it was really awesome. Sometimes, we had location shoots and you're in the forest at nighttime and you have to make sure there's no bears coming and stuff. But it really sets, I feel like we don't even realize in our day to day life how much creativity we would get by just stopping for a second and just daydreaming, or just like letting our brain go wherever it wants to go. Because there's always something we're doing. We're always going from place to place, writing, answering emails, whatever it may be. Like there's so, and even my sisters from Austria, for example, even though they don't, are in the film industry, but then they have, hobbies. So they're like from one hobby to the next, they do their job and then they go to the next. Like there's so little time to just let our brain go. And I love these moments, because I feel like, especially when I have times like that, or as a PA, like you're just there and you kind of let your brain go. I feel like it's really it kind of sparks creativity.
Yeah, your brain needs time to rest
Yeah.
and just float,
Yeah.
and then that's when beautiful things enter. Like,
Yeah.
some people meditate, and they can get ideas like that. For me, I go like hiking out in the mountains,
Yeah.
and I do like by myself 6 or 8 hours, 10 hours a day, and that's really meditative. And the whole time you're walking, you're thinking about life, thinking about the next project, thinking about,
Yeah.
and because you're not distracted, you're not on your phone, you're not listening to someone else next to you,
Yes.
and it's incredibly powerful. And it's always strange, like, I always feel like the world would be a way better place, obviously, if we worked less
Yeah.
and had more time to really think about what we actually want in our lives, instead of just kind of working endlessly, paying
Yeah.
bills, and then just buying shit we don't need.
Yeah. No, I love that mindset. And I think it's really because we're so used to consuming information all the time. I mean, now with the phone, it's even like crazier. Like there's information we get on a like seconds, milliseconds, everywhere is information coming in. And like you said, if you go on these hikes 8 hours, I haven't done that, but good for you, no? But if you're going there, I think it's the time where your brain can do the reverse. Just
Yeah.
let it out, that information, whatever comes from it. And I think it's so important, but we don't do it a lot these days anymore. And to your point of waitressing, like I've tried that before,
Yeah.
but it was just like if I and my dad told me once, and I didn't know that, but I was like, when I do something and I feel like with my gut feeling, it's not right, it's not the right place to be. I feel like I'm not learning something. I'm not kind of developing a new skill or something. I get frustrated because I just, again, the restlessness, I guess. I just need to even again, PAing was so amazing because I could learn something new that I loved for the filmmaking aspect. If I'm in a job where feel like I'm just doing this to earn money, but I don't learn something new. Don't get inspired. It's killing me like just mentally. So I always, when that was the case, I changed. And it was waitressing. I did that for a little while. I was like, this is killing me. I will not do that. And yeah,
You can't let anything destroy your creative spirit.
yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah,
And trying to navigate that path of making money, making a living, paying the rent, and still saving something for your creative outlet,
yeah.
that is such a balancing act.
Yeah, 100%
Yeah.
agree. Especially when, at the beginning of one's career, and I'm still at my beginning of my career, but I think it's like you said, this balancing act of like you gotta have maybe a side job, but then how do you not let that take over? And I feel like I just always make sure, and I usually realize it when I kind of get this, like, oh, I feel like I haven't done enough creativity this week, or I haven't moved something forward with the next project. I get kind of this kind of itch. It's like okay, and then I know for the next week, okay, I have to book a little less side job work. I need to focus on this one now. So I feel like it's really this balance.
Amazing. No, it's good because a lot of people don't understand that balance and then they get pulled too far into that, non-creative work and then they
Yeah.
they never make it back.
Yeah, I think both sides are so, like you said, tricky. I think eventually you want to have the creative take over and, just do what you love doing. And, you're one of the lucky ones who can do that.
Yeah.
But it's really like, finding because I've listened to stories where actors were literally living in their cars before they got their gig that hope brought them to success and so on. So I feel like you can also go one way where it's like I just do my creativity. I don't do anything that distracts me from it, but I might be living in my car and can't afford food for a week or something.
Yeah.
I think that's the other extreme you could go. And then the other side is obviously that you get so focused on the money that comes in through a side job that you do that more than what you actually put on this earth to do.
I think Josh Brolin had a story about how he was living in his car
Really?
before. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because he was in Goonies, he was a childhood
Yeah.
actor, and then he had a great run as a child actor, and then he went through this really dark stretch as a teenager where he didn't work at all.
Oh.
And then it took him like a really long time to like kind of get back into it. I think it was Josh Brolin. I wish I could check it right now, but it was a pretty well known like Hollywood actor. He's been in a lot of big films and is obviously very successful now. But they were like living in their car, ready to pack it in and drive back to their parents' house,
Oh,
with tail between their legs, like
yeah.
giving up on the industry, and then all of a sudden, like bang,
Yeah.
no,
It's sometimes really, I mean, sometimes I wonder if that's marketing or if it actually happened like that. But I do agree, like, there's quite a few stories. Also, like, one of the actors from Challengers, I don't know who of the two lead male actors, was also saying he was living behind a McDonald's for a couple months. I was like, wow, insane. But,
Yeah.
so again, I think the balance.
Balance is crucial. So you're in Vancouver, you're PAing, you're writing with your sister, Day of a Lion,
Yeah.
your first feature film. Are you thinking at the early stages when you start writing and putting the story together, are you thinking of it as an acting vehicle for yourself? Question one.
Mm.
And question two, did you have the idea to bring on a director?
Yes and yes. So actually, before we started Day of a Lion, we wrote a different script first. And that was based on a Brothers Grimm fairy tale that's not so well known. And I still want to do this sometime because I think the story was really dear to my heart. It's also kind of a sister story, but it's a period piece. It would have been way bigger budget. So that was the reason why we eventually didn't do that. But we were kind of working on almost like a proof of concept for it with another a friend of ours. She's an actress and she moved to directing, so she would have been the one set to direct that one.
Sure.
And we there was a great collaboration, and but it took a lot of time to kind of just um get it moving, and then eventually we realized, oh, this is way a bigger budget than we anticipate or can even pull off or even want to pull off. Because to be honest, I would have not felt comfortable asking someone for such a huge amount when I've never done it before. Like if I fail and I do it with my money, fine, that's my money. I know what I'm setting on the table. I know, what the risks are.
Mhm.
Um,
You're way too nice for Hollywood. You got to ask for the maximum all the time.
oh my goodness. I know, but I even now for the next movie, I'm I'm again feel so grateful that I used my own money for the first one or so much of my own money because now I want to use that kind of feeling for everything else that I'm doing with someone else's money. Because I wouldn't want to spend someone else's money recklessly or, not making every penny count because that's what I do with my own money. I want to, get every penny as far as possible. So why wouldn't I want to do this with other people's money?
Let's hope all the producers in LA are listening to you right now, being like, "Let's give this lady some money because she's gonna treat our money with a lot of respect."
Exactly. I hope so too. No, but it's so that was to the point of what was the first question again?
Just
Oh, the
that as an acting vehicle.
exactly. So and that was kind of answering, I think, more your second question with the directing, if we had someone else set to direct. So that was kind of that process was quite a long process. So at some point, and we had, then you have so many cooks in a kitchen, so it's like everyone has different creative ideas. Um, so at some point when we wrote Day of a Line, Bianca and I said, like, let's just do it ourselves. And we did have some conversations with, again, colleagues of ours who were interested or were looking for a directing gig as well. But eventually we decided to do it then ourselves because I think we were so set on doing it, also the time frame that we wanted to do it. And once the more people get on board, the more adjustments you have to make. And that's also what we realized with the next movie. There's like, you can't just say like, okay, we do it this day and we'll do it this day because we have a small crew. We, push everything forward and here's the money and you just pay for it. So kind of it kind of just happened that way that we decided to do it ourselves. And also at that point, we were so well adjusted with the story. Like we knew it backwards and forwards because we have already done the shot list. We had already like done so much research into it. We did all the location scouting. So like, so you really know every aspect. Then for the acting, we, investigated it from the character standpoint. So you really know the story. So it's back like forwards and backwards. So it was kind of a no-brainer that we'll, direct it. But it was never such a thing of like, oh, I want to direct it or whatever, which is like we want to tell the story. And as we feel like we know it the best, let's just do it.
And did you like acting or directing? Like, did you like one more
Or
than the other?
Um, that's such a hard question because I love for directing the pre-production process, or at least for Day of a Line. I love that when you have your discussions with the art department, you see step by step how it comes to life, what you have said on paper. But on set, it was very, I think, stressful because you had it was I think it would have been acting and directing would have been one thing, but because, you do like, sometimes I was like, something happened with the lunch order. So you go after seeing a hop off, go on the phone to like figure something out, or like the location truck didn't, come where they couldn't rent it as we thought they would. So you go out and figure that out because we were kind of as the producers on board. So that was definitely something for the next ones. I don't want to do everything. I want to give up some yeah,
It's
scrolls.
it's got to be hard acting and putting yourself in the mindset of a character that you've written, and then hearing the word cut, which maybe you're giving or maybe your sister's
Yeah.
giving, and then having your phone go off because catering is in the wrong location.
That was
And
literally happening. And because we had wigs and like these period piece costumes, I was like going outside in these like petticoats and wig on, calling with the pizza guy who came by, whatever. Sometimes it was really weird. And because you were saying like, oh, cut, we did have our DP who often, said cut and whatever. But also sometimes it was literally Bianca and I both, and sometimes we were in different scenes, obviously. So I would do all the directing for Bianca. Bianca did it for me, vice versa. But sometimes we would be both in the scene and that would literally happen. We usually like do the scene. We kind of take a beat after, let it, sit and then cut. But it's like really, yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of like splitting personalities in a way,
yeah, like 5 ways.
in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
And I mean, like, where did you? So you're PAing in Vancouver. You're obviously making a lot of friends and stuff like that. And you wrote and shot Day of a Line in Vancouver before you even moved to LA.
Yeah.
Like, where did you find all the other people to work with?
Um, a lot from the indie film industry in Vancouver. Vancouver has a beautiful independent film industry, which I think there's kind of two sides. A lot of people who work in the union projects, like on Z, like you said, a lot of projects come up there and they kind of are in the union kind of cycle of things. You go from one union show to the next one. And then there's also a huge part of indie filmmaking where they have like a lot of awards shows and these competitions and where you can do kind of run and gun movies and so on. So Bianca and I, we acted in quite a lot of these movies because that was kind of when we started, um, kind of booking more acting stuff in Vancouver as well. Um, I said like, oh, okay, I want to explore the indie film industry as well, and did a lot of unpaid acting stuff and so on. And from a lot of those projects, you have conversations with the crew members, and with some you resonate really well, with some you might not. But I feel like the ones that we really resonated with, we just always you become friends or you keep them close. And once we knew we were doing this project, we kind of just called up a lot of those people, said, hey, we're doing this super indie project, not a nugget of what of the resources that any other project would have, like so little pay and so on. um so that's kind of what we relied on. And then on the other side, because we were working as PAs on Percy Jackson at that time,
Mhm.
a lot of those crew members were, again, our David Joshi. He was the camera. He was working in the video coordination department. He literally gave us his entire truck for free to use, like resources like that. Like we were not even thinking we have, a screen on set. We're like, we just hope it's gonna be okay.
Sure.
Or we rewatch something. And then we had all this equipment suddenly. So a lot of people that were just excited about it and, helped out.
That's a really sweet story of people in the filmmaking
Yeah.
industry all banding together to help people be creative and tell their stories. That's really beautiful.
I love, to be honest, really, I love filmmakers. I feel like it's one of the most I mean, that we all know it's the most one of the most collaborative industries, but I feel like because everyone is there for the same reason. Even executives, when people sometimes say, "Oh, the studio executive don't know." Even if you're, studio executive, there is this spark in you that made you go into the film industry, why you wanted to make art and not, you could be a lawyer as well or go into finances or whatever, right? So why did you choose the film industry? I think there's this creative spark that is in everyone who is in the arts, in the film industry. It doesn't matter which position or which level. And I think that's what's so beautiful to see when that everyone, when a story brings those people together that are excited about that, just telling that story.
That's amazing. So you got this ragtag group of indie crew filmmakers.
Yeah.
You and your sister wrote the script. You ended up directing it because you didn't really trust anyone else with the material and you knew it backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
You were producing as well. You got all these beautiful donations and gifts from everyone else. People worked kind of at low rates. How many days did you shoot the whole film in?
13, yeah.
One three.
1-3.
Holy fuck.
I know. And
Was that 13 24-hour days straight?
oh, it was not 24 hours. We stuck to the, union times. I think we did 10-hour or 12-hour days. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
But we never, I think one day we went a couple, like half an hour overtime. And that we like ask is like, everyone please go already. And we just had like, I think the gaffer, the DP, like one or two other people stay for like finishing a scene. But everyone else were like, we did not want to run anyone down. And it was really 13 consecutive days. So it was really, no, not, I think we had one weekend off in between.
Mhm.
But shooting days was 13 days. So we really went all the way through. So it's also like important that everyone, stays, healthy and safe and everything during that time. So
Chris Nolan just shot The Odyssey in 60 days.
60? Wow.
60. Yeah, no, no, but it's amazing that because a lot of people out there probably don't know that you can do a whole like 90-minute, 2-hour feature film in 13, 14 days, like two
Yeah.
weeks.
And I think also, once again, just, an amazing shout out to the crew that we had because again, I think everyone that we talked about, like when we talked about the story, the ones that were so excited about it were the ones that actually ended up being on set and working with us because they were first in because of the story. They didn't ask first, like, and so how much is it going to pay me? And like, what's, how much is my is the set fee going to be or my kit fee going to be and so on. They were all first story and then we negotiated everything else. So I think when you're so excited about the story, you're again going an extra step and every single department did that. And like sometimes, our costume department came and the ladies had already like done, adjusted things from the day before because like tights were not like sitting 100% or whatever. And then overnight she, was sewing something on the dress that made it more, easier to wear or whatever. And it's like those extra steps that no one asked for and they just did because they were so in for the project. That's the most amazing.
Well, it's a testament to you and your sister. Like you guys brought, with your energy and commitment and passion, you brought out that goodwill in everyone else, right? Like,
That's our
people,
hope.
good energy chases good energy, and you put good karma out into the world, and it comes back to you, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and I think that's kind of what happened. Like you guys, you PA'd and you made friends, and you helped people out when they could, and then they came back and helped you out. I think
yeah,
that's beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, you don't hear a lot of stories about that. Like it's nice when people come together and help people tell stories. That's
yeah.
amazing.
But I think also because it's like you said, I do believe that too. It's kind of what you give out comes back.
Mhm.
So it's always trying to, see the most positive in everything that comes, even if it's a setback. There's probably something I needed to learn from that setback. But I think also like it's, that's what they say at least, you're 80% of the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to like if I meet new people or, on sets, obviously you will not, marry every person you meet, but I feel like I always try to um the people that I feel like really resonate, I love having them around, bringing them back for stuff and just working together because it's a lot more fun.
Amazing. So here's a question. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people may be listening to this, and I did this actually for my first TV show, is I really had a very clear vision on production
Yeah.
and pre-production. Like I knew how to plan things out. I knew what we needed to get day by day. We were able to pretty much stay on schedule. But I did not understand post-production, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
did not understand the role of the editor, the role of maps, music, sound mixing, color correcting. Like, how savvy were you about knowing post production and how much all that stuff was going to cost and how much time it would take when you were going into production? Because obviously you were on set all the time as a PA, so you were watching the front end,
Valid question, yeah.
but you didn't know what's going on in the back end. And actually, the back end is where all the magic happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I love that you're asking that question because I think no one ever asked, and it really was like that for I feel like similar to you what you were saying. I'm way more used to kind of the pre-production aspect of it because I went to an economics school,
Mhm.
believe it or not, and like planning was my entire life. Like also because I have so many siblings, like even our navigating our hobbies and like when our parents are going to pick up who once we were able to drive, and when are you picking up your siblings and combine it with your hobbies and to combine it with schoolwork and whatever. It's always planning, so I feel like that comes naturally. The set work was, PAing was where I got to understand and learn how do the departments on set work and how does that all work. I think post-production was definitely a new aspect. That was something that kind of we discovered step by step as we were done with the project.
Mhm.
And I'm so, again, grateful for that experience because I think I would have never realized what's all entailed in post-production if you don't have to do it step by step.
Yeah.
Like even when you think you have, the first rough cut and then everything that comes on top from coloring to, the sound mix and then composing, like, I was even before I was like, "Okay, you just like, you have the sound on there, you maybe tweak a couple things and that's it." It's like, "No, no, no. Every scene needs to be adjusted," and
It's crazy.
it's really crazy, and we were a little unfortunate that our, sound, mixer on the day got sick, and she was sound mixing and boom operating, doing both.
Sure.
So we had to literally call up and had almost every day a new sound person on set.
Oh, that must have been very stressful.
Oh, that was one thing, but
Yeah.
our poor editor had to figure out, or a sound editor had to figure out everything, how you adjust that because obviously every level is a little different. It's not one person doing it all, but you have to, that was something I learned for the next one. The one single person who does all the sound is very important. But to the post question, definitely, like there were so many things that I didn't even consider. We definitely budgeted for post production, but we had a little bit that came on top just for like even PR
Mhm.
and marketing. That was also something, but I think we didn't even plan ahead for that because again we went in saying this our experiment is like a film school, and then suddenly you have the product and it's like, oh, it doesn't look as bad as I thought it might have looked, or it was more like thinking, oh, this is a film school project. And then we had an amazing like our colorist Dermont. He was he and is still working for Sony and Lionsgate and so on. He has done, the coloring for those big time movies. And he was just literally doing our project for free, coloring the entire movie.
Wow.
So, then you suddenly have this quality in front of you, like, wow, this is insane.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of stuff that came after. And I think everything that came after, from the post-production process to getting it out there, from festival runs all the way to, which are expensive festival runs,
Yeah.
all the way to PR, marketing, getting it seen out there, creating from IMDb pages to anything else that it has a life on Google, and that you have the trailer on the right platforms and that it leads the right people to the right, links. And then once we had distribution to get that out as well, that was also something that we didn't even anticipate at all. So that was really a step-by-step learning process.
Did you hire a PR team or did you try to do it yourself?
We did, I would say 80% ourselves. Like at the beginning, we were resisting it for the longest time. And then just before, I think 2 months before it was released on Amazon and Apple, we said like, okay, like we should, do a push so we can get it out. We can get some more like social media and so on. And most importantly, that we get the people who are watching the trailers onto the right platforms. So we had like a kind of marketing company for it that helped with that kind of getting the eyeballs to the right pages. So it was not really PR necessarily. There we were very lucky that, we got a deadline article and we got like, certain like people that we just reached out to is like, hey, this movie's coming out. Like, do you want to, have a huge following on Instagram, whatever. Do you want to, review this maybe? So a lot of that happened. Yeah.
That's wild. So for those people who are watching that don't really understand it, like when a movie is being made by Disney, the director, the actors, everyone involved knows that that movie is going to be put out into theaters or put out on streaming by Disney. And that's what's called a studio movie. But you guys made what's called an indie movie, which means everyone puts in their money, their blood, their sweat, their tears, and you don't know if anyone's going to watch it, and you don't know if you're going to get distribution. So what was it like, between wrapping the edit and finishing post-production, and and how long was that journey from wrapping post-production to actually getting someone to distribute your film and to get eyeballs on it? And how miserable or happy was that time period? Because that's the most stressful.
Yeah, I think again, because we didn't go in it for, again, we thought we'll do festival runs and maybe someone at the festival is going to pick it up. And if not, we just went to festivals. But I think once we did one step, we got more ambitious to do a next step. And then we got more ambitious to do the next step. For example, we finished a movie, we did, post-production, everything. We're like, cool, we have the finished movie. But then we're like, but let's, put it out somewhere. Okay, so we looked into festivals. So we sent it out to festivals. And then once it got accepted at some festivals, we're like, but, just at the festivals, like we realized it was at the festivals. You can, have your, your kind of your star, wow, it went to the
For your website.
Exactly, for your website, whatever you want to call it. But other than that, no one's still really going to see the movie. And then so that kind of then led us to maybe we can get it out somewhere, like on small platforms, whatever. And that started the next conversations. And then, you meet the right people and they were, oh, let me introduce you to these, distributors or sales agents. And then you start those conversations and then they get it on Amazon and so on. So it was really a step-by-step process. That whole process, I think, was way longer than it maybe usually would be, and maybe not necessarily, but I think for the next one, I'm already now in development, thinking of which PR companies we will want to hire and what we want to do strategically once the movie comes out. Like when should it be released that it makes sense and what it is competing with, right? Which festivals we want to go to or try to get into. Like if we can already maybe get some pre-sales or something so that you have that all prior set up and you're not where we were with our movie, then you have a finished product and then you kind of do step by step, because that process until it came out was, longer than the whole shooting process, really, because again, for us, it was a step by step learning. And now that we know this process, we want to slim it down, make it faster.
There was a little bit in that where you kind of sounded like Frank.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness.
Where it's like, well, we need to know who we're competing against. We need to know what the budget's going to be. We need to know if we're going to get some pre-sales.
Really?
Right.
You say that?
No, but that's I hear Frank in your voice because because he's all about pre-sales. He's all about the international market. He's all about, getting.
Didn't know that even. We didn't talk with him about it a lot. But that's good. We're on the same page then even without knowing it.
Yeah.
But I do realize, like, we have spent now for the next movie a lot of time with Frank Isaac, producing on that movie, and he is amazing, an amazing human being. But I feel like because I learned so much from his conversation, he's been in this industry for such a long time, and he has such a great way of navigating through conversations with people in the industry without making anyone feel, you know, like you're, standing on their toes, with making them really feel, comfortable, and, taking away the fear right from the start of a conversation. So I really learn a lot, but I also realized, like, I was picking up certain patterns
Yeah.
just because we have so many meetings these days.
Yeah. And he's very well organized.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. He seemed to lead the discussion very much because I only listened to the first beginning part.
No. He kind of talked a little bit about working with you guys, you and your sister, towards the end, because like we had his kind of whole career to work through.
Yeah, I
And
know. Which
like his
exactly.
time he spent in South America and all
I
that,
know.
it was unbelievable.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, and he has been part of cult classics, like,
Yeah.
some of those back in the days, saying, B movies that became really now every Halloween people bring out those movies.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. So, at what stage after finishing Day of a Lion, your first feature, at what stage you were like, okay, it's time to move to LA?
It was kind of when we were, let me get the time frame like straight there. We were in post production for A Day of a Lion, and we at that point we started applying, or a little before, no, during that time, we started applying for the visa. Um, and again, you never know if it gets accepted or not. So we are just like, fingers crossed. And we were already, once we were still in post production with Day of a Lion, we were saying, okay, if we get the visa, we kind of have to make these adjustments, or this is like, yeah, we gonna, change. So we kind of started doing that before we even got the visa.
Mhm.
And then once we got the visa, we were like, okay, we know we will go down now. And so it was not even, again, making Day of a Lion was not intended to be an now entry ticket or anything to the States. None of that at all. It was just happened. We got the visa at the time where we finished the movie and had it, edited and done basically and sent it out to festivals. So when we came down to LA, every conversation we had was like, oh yeah, we've done this movie and so on, which was great because I think people really kind of the first question people ask is like, what are you working on right
Yeah.
now? What are you doing right now?
Yeah, no one wants to have lunch with someone who hasn't made something.
Exactly. Or it doesn't do something right now. And it doesn't even have to be, a project, but I feel like that's just such a Hollywood question people asked. It was very, definitely very helpful having something in our pockets. And I didn't even realize it at that point. I think in retrospect now, thinking how many doors have opened because we had conversations with people and they were curious about the movie and then they watched it and they liked it. And then, they, sent our information on to someone else who could help us with something else. And because we still had that entire PR run and getting it out to distribution ahead of us, basically, when we were just moving down to LA, we got to meet a lot of people, which was great because I think it expanded our kind of network, if I want to call it like that, quite rapidly fast, just because we had a need to find something that was missing in our process. Like, oh, we need someone for, I don't know, we want to get it out there. Maybe we should talk to some sales agent or maybe some producers. So we picked a lot of brains just to, invited lots of people for coffee just to ask, so how would you do that if you had a movie, and or how did you do it on your last project and so on?
Sure. It's interesting because like I I've been thinking about this for years, and like a career in entertainment is kind of like a snowball,
Yeah.
and you want the snowball to be going downhill,
Yeah.
because as it rolls and as you make stuff and as you're busier and as you're going faster, more snow gets connected to you, and attached to you, and the ball gets bigger, and
Yeah.
that's your career.
Yeah.
And it's like the more you can create, the more stories you can tell, the more you can share that with people, the more opportunities you get, the bigger your career gets, the more power, the control you have over your storytelling and all that kind of stuff. So it's like you not like you're just getting that ball rolling. But if you come to Hollywood and you don't have
Snow.
snow and you don't have that ball rolling, it's such a hard thing to do to get started because you literally have nothing really to show people. And of course, when you've made something, it's kind of sexy and people want to be attached to that energy and that,
Yeah.
that creativity. And it's great that you were able to have something kind of that you were actively promoting and creating, and even had your next project lined up when you came down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like a lot of the kind of odds were in our favor without, you know, I feel like I'm a very lucky person, and not saying like lucky as like
No, 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 no. You
just,
no, no. You
just
took the risk. You moved from fucking Austria
sure, but
to Vancouver. You
yeah,
put your own money in to make your own feature film,
yeah.
and then you moved to LA to also promote it. And put so like you've done three things that most people would never do.
Yeah.
So like you bought your own luck.
I love that. I love that explanation. I love that
Yeah.
explanation. But I do think like, active steps, how do they say like opportunity meets preparation and that's luck or something like that.
Something like that.
So I think like it really is when you take the first active steps and then like all these kind of lucky strikes come, but it's really like, an opportunity meets the preparation that you've been doing. It doesn't matter if it's applying for a visa or if it's moving to a different continent or whatever it may be. But I think once those two marry, then you're like, I seem like the luckiest person in the world, but
Yeah.
just because you've done your homework and then, the other people fill in the rest.
And you've taken steps that most people don't. So that puts you in a whole different position in every meeting you go into.
Yeah.
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 That's wild. So what was it like moving from Vancouver to LA? And like, were you overwhelmed with the size and the chaos that is LA? And just because it's a different vibe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Not necessarily. I was before I even moved to LA, I was doing the year, I think before like 3 times or so trip down for workshops and, some casting director workshops and so on. And it was part of a program which was organized by an Australian company. And they did like kind of a 2 weeks program and you just come down, you do like kind of get headshots and, do some get some stuff for your acting reel and so on. So like I have done workshops like that before. So it was not that LA, it was not setting my first foot on for the first time ever onto LA basically. So that was I think good because then you already, have a little bit understand the vibe a little bit and how widespread it is and so on. And the other thing was I had already a lot of or not a lot, but like a network of people down here that I really trusted.
Yeah.
Besides, obviously, my having my sister again come with me, it's a lot easier if you have someone to troubleshoot with, or if you have, is this just me, or is this like, was this, is this could this be a scam? You have someone to talk about it. I think is definitely helpful. But then also, our mentor Michael Goy, he amazing director and DP, and he has these kind of movie nights going on, and he was mentoring us through Day of a Line, basically.
Well,
And we met him super randomly. I think we saw a project of his, reached out, sent him some of our short movies. He responded, it was all just online, which is, some people's like, that's crazy. But it was really, he was so open and shared all his knowledge. And he is even now like an amazing mentor he's like in the academy program, he is like in any union you can imagine, and he's such a mentor to so many people. And anyways, he has these movie nights, so coming down here he invited us to these movie nights, so we really fast like met a lot of people our age because a lot of them are mentees and people who have been working in the industry for a long time, all coming together and do what we love, watch movies. So we had a great kind of network of people that we could trust when we came down here. And I think that's one of the biggest kind of things. I think my move from Austria to Canada was harder
Mhm.
because we didn't know anyone. We met a couple people through colleagues, but it was during COVID. So almost no one wanted to meet in person. Almost no one wanted to, take any risks. So it like really the first year I haven't met really a lot of people. I felt very isolated.
Mhm.
Yeah, I ran into so many scams from like, phone providers to like, it was the first time that you have to get your social insurance number. And like, I'm at 19, like, how do you even do this? And then it's like all closed because of COVID, a different language. That was way a bigger jump for me personally than from Vancouver to LA.
Okay. Wow. That's wild. I mean, yeah, it's like like, because you think like, Canada is a pretty safe, place to kind of land. But I think LA is more of a snake pit.
I think, and that again, once again, so grateful that kind of whatever you want to call it, universe, whatever led me to, going through Vancouver first and then LA, because I think if I would have gone straight to LA, I would have fallen into so many more pitfalls and would have been scammed left and right. I think just because, you also are so, wide-eyed and you just believe everything everyone tells you. And Austria, again, I was in a smaller town, so the handshake means something there. And, people
not here.
don't backstab you as easily and stuff, right? So, with that mentality, you go out in the world. And I still I still want to, I still want to keep that mindset about people.
Mhm.
I think just, as you walk through life, you realize, okay, there's also other ways of living or perspectives that people have, or just how they grew up or learned to behave in this city or any city.
Yeah.
So I think that's just, yeah. I'm glad that I did Vancouver first, is what I'm saying. I think I would have ran into some more traps.
The scam artists can smell that excitement and that
Yeah.
ambition and that wide-eyedness from a mile away. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's crazy, yeah, because like you have to think about how many people come to this town every year trying to like fulfill their hopes and dreams, and how many people just either get discouraged, get ripped off, or just decide it's not for them.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And even like you're learning about the industry, like even as an actor, what does the casting department do? What are like, agents, manager? What's the difference? Like, what do I even need for my acting career? That all I kind of discovered and learned in Vancouver. Again, is was way way ahead of the curve when I came down to LA.
And just keep writing your own characters.
Exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
and keep writing the stories. Yeah,
That's the best. Like I remember Vince Vaughn, famous comedian,
yeah,
actor, and he was chatting with a bunch of comedians, and they were all hilarious, and they were all doing really well with stand up and stuff like that, and they all wanted to be on television. They all wanted to be in sitcoms and stuff like that, and everyone was just like, how do we get on a sitcom? How do we do this? And he goes, fucking pick up a pen and write, man. Like,
yeah,
he goes, there's a lot of outlets here, but you got to come up with your own shit. Like,
yeah.
because if you just sit around waiting for other people to cast you, you're gonna be, you're not gonna get anywhere.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Kimmel, one of the late night hosts, was saying it in one of the shows. The time where you could stand as a comedian or an actor outside of a, Rolf's and, do your gigs and do your kind of chops, or, pick up a guitar and sing and, hope that that's how they spot you, kind of, they say that time is over. And I don't think even it's not a negative thing necessarily. It's just like, the industry changes so fast, and, when you think how people got discovered in the 50s versus now where there's internet and, TikTok and social media and whatever, it's just two completely different worlds. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, and now we have the opportunity to literally pick up a phone and film something.
It's amazing. Did you ever see that series called Hollywood? I think it's called Hollywood, by Ryan Murphy on Netflix. Uh,
No, but I heard of it.
It's beautiful because it goes back into like the 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
and these men used to stand at the gates of the Paramount lot
Yeah.
or the Warner's lot, I can't remember, or Universal lot, and they used to wait there, and a lady used to come out and be like, okay, you, and she would pick them through the fence, and they would come onto the lot and be day background workers or whatever, and then one of them became a star, and then that's the whole series.
Wow.
But you think about like
So true.
standing
Yeah.
next to the lot, being picked through a gate, and
Yes.
that's literally how it worked like 50 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think those times are over. They can't do that anymore.
There's too many people.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there anything we haven't chatted about that you might want to bring up about Day of the Lion or your next film as we kind of slowly wind this down?
I think Dare of a Lie, we went in so much detail. I think
love
I
it.
haven't even, thought about a lot of those.
Yeah.
That's great. A lot of those things for a long time. I loved, a lot of those questions you touched upon. I hope it can be helpful to someone who is maybe in the process of making a movie right now.
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, I'm excited for the next one moving forward, which is, a psychological thriller. And I think you talked with Bianca about it as well, but
It's set in Austria.
it is set in Austria, but we might not be filming in Austria, but like, in the Eastern European countries, because, tax incentives and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's what I'm again, I think, just kind of summing up the whole filmmaking experience from Day of a Line. I'm so grateful for anything, like every step. Some of those in between, I was so like, oh my God, this is never going to get anywhere, or like, you feel so stuck. But I'm so grateful now for everything I've learned there, because going into the next one, like, sometimes I look back at the last year and I feel like I lived 10 years during that one year,
Mhm.
just because of so much that you learn. I think once you learn and do stuff and create stuff, there is such a development that's happening personally and, mentally, and, your brain, that it feels more time has passed. But I feel like that's definitely something, and I'm excited for the next one going into it, because there's so much that I'm already now taking meeting after meeting. I'm learning already, and so much that I've been learning from Day of a Line that I'm excited to, dive into the next one.
It's really an education, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And that's also what I think is the beautiful thing about filmmaking. You can never learn out, so to say. You can never learn enough. There's always more you can learn. And that's also about creativity in general. Like, I think there's always something more you can create, or even for acting, learn about your character. When they give you a character and you're like, okay, you're playing this person who is 25 years old and, a woman who has a child at home. Like, now I have to relive or recreate in a way these 25 years that this other person lived that I didn't live, right? So I feel like you could spend a lifetime just creating that life of someone else.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty of it. It
Yeah.
is. It is.
Well, that's wild. Well, look, I know you got to head out to another meeting, but I appreciate you coming by the podcast and sharing all that with our audience. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck. Obviously, Day of the Lion is out on Amazon Prime. People can watch it there. Is it that? Is it anywhere else?
It is Blu-ray DVD. You can get it, and it is right now. We're in discussion to getting it on streamers as well, like for what is it, TVOD, AVOD. But that's still in discussion. But yeah, Apple, Amazon Prime. There's Vendingo, I think, a couple smaller ones, but for the wide audience.
And where can we follow you at? Where are you have a website or social media?
Social media, I think, is the easiest. I have my IMDb, so there's my email if anyone needs to reach out. But I'm on Instagram. It's just Dilara _Foscht.
Brilliant. Well, look, I wish you the best of luck in your career. The energy, the passion, the excitement, the risk taking. You're the personification of filmmaking.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for having me. It's like now the end of Green Rush is coming. No, it's really, thank you so much for chatting. It's really beautiful, just, letting loose and talking about filmmaking.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So now we can just go up here. Oh, wait, that's not working. Oh, my middle camera is not working. Oh, anyways, wonderful to meet you.
Yes,
And I absolutely look forward to having you swing by once you've done your next film.
I will. I would love that.
Absolutely. Well, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.